Hello and welcome to another episode of Growing Organically for Wholesale Markets. Today we will talk about cover cropping. Cover crops are great at increasing your soil organic matter, something we talked about in a previous episode about soil building, especially when you use them in your crop rotation. As an organic grower, you will need to use crop rotation, but crop rotation is an excellent way to manage your pests, disease, and weeds. Next, we're going to join Richard Moyer in Russell County, Virginia, to talk about some of the benefits that he sees with his cover crops.
So the bulk of where we grew the squash last year, I've planted cowpeas. Cowpeas are a soil builder. They're a legume. I made sure I inoculated with the proper bacteria so they could get the maximum amount of nitrogen pulled out of the air, put back into the soil. They have a very deep taproot, so they go deep and get minerals and they pull them up. They have extra floral nectaries on the plants, these cowpeas. And so where there's going to be a bloom, you can see I have the first blooms here at my hand. But at the base of this stem is a little pink area. And at that pink area right there, there's drops of nectar. And I was looking yesterday, we already had some ants and some other insects that were coming out to harvest some of this. And what the plant's doing is making places where insects can come and get a meal and also can pollinate the plant while they're at it. Now right here, I just noticed that. There's a very small pea, a cowpea that's just forming. You can see that little tiny pea pod that's coming out there. And this will be 8 or 10 inches long, this pea pod on this variety. And it'll give us something to eat. We're growing this crop as a cover crop, a smother crop. If you look at this area, we have some weed pressure. We have galansoga that we just looked at. We have pigweed. We have some other grasses. We have a few other weeds that were problems in this area 2 years ago. And we tried very intentionally last year to grow the winter squash and mulch it really well so the squash could cover the whole area. We still had some weed seed that came back this year. And these cowpeas are really liked because they make a cover crop where they cover the soil, but also a smother crop where they can smother most of the weeds. I still had to come in and do some hand weeding. If I look carefully, I can see there's a pigweed in here. I see there's a foxtail millet right there that's coming up. But I can walk through, wade in here, and get those few things out so they don't set seed. And if you can keep your weeds, certain crops, if you can keep that weed seed from germinating and making new seed, you can really cut down on the amount of seed you have the next year or following years. We're producing seed here. I really like this particular cowpea. It's an heirloom that was given to me by somebody local. It works well for my system. And I'm growing sometimes cover crops on a big scale. And so I don't have enough of this seed, so I'm producing my own seed this year. And I'll get, I don't know how many gallons of seed out of this. I'll get a lot of seed out of this. As long as the deer don't come in and eat them all, but then we can get a permit to shoot the deer and eat the deer. So there's ways of dealing with deer too, if need be.
Increasing your soil organic matter, helping to manage weeds, attracting pollinators, and even earning money for the cover crops that you're growing were just some of the benefits that Richard mentioned. Next, we're going to join Richard in a field where he's growing Renzabrugia and clover for his goats. Now, as an organic grower, we encourage you to use animals in your production, but as part of the organic growers group and when certified organic, you have to follow a strict set of rules with your animals. So you should check out our online blog that has links to these guidelines and rules.
There's a lot of clover right here, which is white clover, and I just saw some red clover over there. The clover again pulls nitrogen out of the air and thinking about nutrient cycles. Instead of me having to buy nitrogen and spend the fuel to spread nitrogen on this field, I just bring in the goats. And so these fields where I do this, we can come in and I can do some really narrow rows just with a chisel plow. I make a very narrow trench and we can grow right in this field. I'll mow the middles and I can grow something like tomatoes or pole beans or cucumbers, something like that on a trellis. If this was bare soil and I'd spread chicken litter on here, a lot of that nutrients would have been lost. A lot of the phosphate, a lot of the nitrogen would have gone into the groundwater or run across the surface, gone in my pond there, caused the algae bloom, gone right down the hill to the Clinch River and caused problems there. So having this cover crop, it grabs and holds. It's a winter cover crop. We planted it last October. It grabs and holds the phosphate and the nitrogen, uses it all winter long, This is a grazing rye, Renza Bruzi I really like, and we get a lot of good production out of this late fall. We graze it November, December, February, March. Gives us lots and lots of good grazing.
Sequestering nitrogen, again, that helps with soil building. Protecting your watershed as well as preventing erosion were some more benefits that Richard saw when using those cover crops. They have a wide range of benefits. They can sequester carbon, again, helping to build your soil. They can reduce time spent on the tractor when you're tilling or disking or plowing. They can smother weeds when they're bush hog. They can be animal feed, and they can certainly reduce pest, disease, and weeds when used in crop rotation. Check out our online blog for cover crops you should use around here and all their benefits. That's it for this week's episode. I hope to see you next time on Growing Organically for Wholesale Markets.